I had a couple incidences, and um, they live with me forever. We picked up a, a, a Vietnamese child, and it was just a baby, the mother had him wrapped in right here and holding her to her chest. A Vietnamese woman, small woman, and the baby was really small. And the medic said the baby's really hurt bad. We got to hurry. So I put the aircraft on 120 knots, as fast as you're permitted to go. I heard a scream, and I knew it wasn't the baby. And I glanced around, and the medic said over the intercom, he said, "Sir, you can slow down now." And then he paused, and I think he was crying. And then he said, "The baby has died." And oh, I was just crushed. I heard this mother crying the whole way, probably another 15 minutes, crying the whole way and holding her baby. And I was just devastated. I couldn't sleep for 2 or 3 nights. I slept a little bit. I mean, I was just devastated. And so I still hang on to that vision. When I talk about it, my eyes start to well up.
What had happened to the baby? Do you know?
It got hit with shrapnel, some kind of shrapnel. I don't know if it was a grenade or what, but it was seriously injured and bleeding, and babies aren't in a position to fend off things like that.
When was it the medic or the crew chief who told you that the baby had died?
The medic did.
So when the medic told you that, then what? Did you take the helo back to the village, or?
No, we dropped her off. They have a body there now in their arms. We took her right to the Vietnam hospital, only about 5 minutes away from where we were. So we dropped her off at the hospital, and I don't know if we transported her back or not. I don't think so, because it wasn't a medical emergency anymore. So she may have taken a bus. That was a common way for Vietnamese.
You said that this baby was hit by shrapnel. Do you know the context? Was it a Viet Cong mine? Was it artillery?
It was Viet Cong, but I don't know if it was direct fire or whatever. But it was Viet Cong. I remember that because we had to get in and get that baby and get out because the Viet Cong were invading this Vietnamese village. We got in and got out fast because we know that there was casualties there. And that's strange that I remember this now. There were 2 or 3 Vietnamese that were killed, that were dead, and we weren't going to carry the dead. We were going to carry that urgently needed baby. And so we very seldom carried the dead. If it was a military commander and the military situation was such that they wanted to get, they were going to have to evac and then whatever, we would carry a dead body, but we didn't do that very often. The other pilot and I were on a very difficult mission. Our friendly fire folks were in contact with the enemy, and firing was going on. And as we started, and it was a night mission, so we have our position lights on. You know the position lights.
Yeah.
But we're up 1,500 feet above the terrain because that's out of the small arms fire range, accurate. We started our descent, and we turned off the position lights, but we needed the landing light so that we could see the top of the trees and stuff as best we could. And the other pilot said, okay, turn off the spotlight. And I reached up with my right arm, because it's up on the panel on the ceiling. And I reached up, I tried to get it, and I couldn't reach it. I said, I can't reach it. And he was still descending, and then he said, turn off the lights. And I could not reach the panel with my right arm because of my right shoulder. I think I went out of place when I did that, pushing and pushing. And so I reached up with my left, and I couldn't do it. So he pulled pitch and started taking off, and he didn't say anything. He was pissed. He reached up from his side and turned them off, and the medevac was successful. And we went back, dropped off the patient, and we went back. But the other pilot was upset with me. The next morning, I got a message, sir. You're required, you are ordered to report to the commander immediately. I said, oh, shit, I'm in trouble. So I reported to the commanding officer and saluted, and I stood there, and he made me stand right there at attention, and which is unusual. Commander says at ease or take a seat, But no, I was standing there at attention, and he said, tell me what happened last night. So I told him. He said, get to the hospital right now, get examined. I want to find out what the problem was. I think he thought that I had gotten scared or something. I don't know what was in his mind, but I was flown, one of the helicopters, the first up took me over to the hospital. I had x-rays taken, and I was confined to the hospital and medevaced back to, I went to the Philippines first, and then, no, I went to Japan first, and then to the Philippines, and then to Hawaii, and I had my surgery there, and they cut off the end of my clavicle, the bone that goes across here to the joint. They cut off the end and removed all the growth that had grown around that injury. So my Vietnam tour was shortened due to being in medevac. Rainy season is miserable in Vietnam, just miserable. Many times you're flying and you can't even see through the windshield. I had medics and crew chiefs laying on their stomachs out each side of the aircraft, laying on their stomachs, telling me how high above the trees I am. So they said, sir, you got to rise, you got to go up, and then okay, that's good. That's how they directed me, and all the pilots, that had that same problem.
This is so you because you couldn't see out the.
That's right.
Because the rain was so intense.
Yes. We medevac mountain yards, Koreans, lots of Koreans. The Tiger Division, phenomenal fighting group, and they're very brave. And we medevac a lot of Koreans, a lot of South Vietnamese. Then we medevac Viet Cong, the enemy. We take them back to the South Vietnamese hospital, but there would be police there to escort them to the hospital. A lot of times that we just go to a pickup site and pick up, according to what we've got 3 casualties, litter patients. And we'd land there and pick them up, and if they were Korean, we would ask our Korean interpreter, who's there down at the alert shack with us. We'd tell him it is a Korean mission, and he'd come with us. He'd get on board, and he would be the 5th member on the medevac crew. And so they would do the talking to the ground, to the people on the ground, because they couldn't understand English, and vice versa. So the interpreter would give the message to the pilots, and we would then go according to what the interpreter gave us. Koreans, I remember one incident was really kind of eye-opening. I think it was three platoons all lined up, just perfectly straight and not a movement, hardly blinking an eye, you know. And we landed right in front of the formation. We could see how stern they were, and we could hear Korean language going on, and then either platoon leader or the company leader went up and slugged one of the men in formation, and just sent that guy flying, and the other guys picked him up and put him back into formation and stood at attention. And I'd never seen anything like that. A Korean commander or a senior officer hitting and blasting him.
Do you have any idea why he did that?
I have no idea. I was told Korean soldiers didn't take prisoners. They killed them, unless there was a reason they wanted to save one. I remember one patient. This patient was either Korean or no, I think it had to be regular South Vietnam woman. But this woman was shot in the leg, and we had to medevac her, and we picked her up, and we were taking her to the hospital, Vietnam hospital, and we were told over the phone, expect to pick her up later this afternoon around 3. So I was all prepared, the aircraft ready to go, and we got a call and said, disregard, patient died, has passed away. I thought that was just a bullet through the side of the thigh, enough not even to hit the femur, just hit the meat in her leg. And I was told by the interpreter that that woman was a Vietnamese spy. She was a spy. And the first time she was apprehended by the Vietnamese, she was shot in the leg. And so that's an identifier. And if the Koreans pick her up again, and being suspected a second time, that's evidence that she's guilty. And we took her to the Korean hospital, and later that day we were told that the mission was canceled.
So the interpretation being that the South Koreans had taken out the South Vietnamese spy.
Yes. I was positioned at Tuy Hoa for a week or two. I can't remember how long, 10 days maybe. But anyway, I was at Tuy Hoa with one other pilot. There's just two of us there, and a medic and a crew chief, and we played cards and waiting for the mission. And we got notified that the ROC division was moving out like midnight tonight or whatever it was. And the entire, I don't know, probably 2 battalions, an enormous number of ROCs. And they were moving out, and we were to cover them during their transition to the battlefield and into the battlefield. And we just stayed up above, not getting close to where the shooting was going. We could see the shooting, but we weren't close to the shooting. But we were up there waiting for somebody to get hurt, get shot, and sure enough, we picked up 2 or 3 the first day, and it was and several the next day. I that's way beyond my memory comprehension, but we picked up several every day They were a fighting force, I'll tell you.
And these are the South Koreans.
These were South Koreans.
Yeah. How would you, of course, you're not a combatant in that, you're not out in the boonies, on patrol. But just given your experience, how would you describe the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese as a fighting force?
Oh, I think the Viet Cong. I shouldn't say this, but I think the Viet Cong were smarter combat-wise. They were, of course, calling the strokes. They attack and then circle a village or whatever, and if they were being beaten back by too many foes, they'd just disappear. They'd disappear, but they didn't disappear very often. They would assess the situation over time, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. Assess the capability of the South Vietnamese armed forces. They'd say, "Oh, they've only got a company there. We're going to take in 2 companies, and we're going to come in from the south side because they don't have anything over there to defend against an invasion." So they come around on the south side and attack from the south side. So it's smart. The Viet Cong were smart. The Vietnamese, the South Vietnamese, they weren't very. I remember one place we landed, and they just had a little bunker built up, maybe 2 feet high. That was their defense for their little encampment. And shit, they would have knocked that out in no time. The Viet Cong would knock that out in no time.
Yeah, so you're describing the Viet Cong as resourceful, smart, being smart about what they're up to, whereas the South Vietnamese ARVN forces seems like it's a different story.
Well, I'm referring to those that were principally stationed out in the peripheral areas, and they didn't have the resources. Vietnam didn't have that much money. They were not wealthy.
Right. Yeah.
They didn't have the money. So when they were out there in the boonies or in the peripheral areas, they didn't have a lot of sophisticated weapons, so they were pushed over pretty easily
by the Viet Cong.
Viet Cong had motivation.
Yeah.
And a lot of those South Vietnamese, they were made to go out there, and they had 3 children or 4 children back at the bungalow, and they're made to stay out there and eat and get paid very, very, very little and eat very poorly. Lots of rice. When we came back, we were called baby killers. And we didn't kill babies. Nobody did. Viet Cong did, but we were spit on or spit at. Frequently I'd step away from the spit and swore at. It was very unpleasant, and it was a tough return. But that's changed now, and so the folks don't, unless they experienced it, they have no idea how badly we felt when we came home and people didn't welcome us home. When I first got back, I wore my uniform on leave. I wore my uniform because I was proud of it, and people swore and baby killer and so on. I stopped wearing my uniform, and people stopped swearing at me.
People said that to you.
Yes, sir. And I had wings and combat stuff, and I was at that time a major, and they treated me like scum, spit at me. I hated that. I just hated that. And then sometimes that happened to me in the classroom. One time I remember it happened in my chemistry class. I got called baby killer so many times, can't tell you.
What did you do in response?
Nothing. I just turned around and walked away.